Two men in a cellar in Worcester, England. In front of them, a barrel of something so foul they can't stand to be near it. Whatever's inside was supposed to be a sauce, a recreation of a recipe from halfway across the world. Instead, it's a failure. So they do what anyone would do with a mistake too disgusting to sell and too expensive to throw away. They forget about it. 2 years later, someone remembers it's still down there. That barrel, or so the story goes, became one of the most successful bottled condiments in human history. It's in your fridge right now. Billions of bottles, sold in more than 100 countries. It's a great story. There's just one problem. Almost none of it can be proven. This is Worcester, a mid-sized English market town, not particularly famous for anything in the early 1800s, except soon for one thing. Inside this shop worked two chemists, John Willie Lea and William Henry Perrins. Not cooks, not merchants, chemists, men who spent their days measuring, mixing, and selling everything from medicine to household goods, because that's what a 19th century chemist's shop did. Here's what we're going to do in the next 14 minutes. First, we're going to tell you the story of Worcestershire sauce the way it's been told for nearly 2 centuries. The legend, the way the company itself has always told it. Then we're going to do something the legend usually skips. We're going to check it. The story begins in India. A British nobleman, tradition names him Lord Sandys, has spent years there, and he's acquired a taste for something the British dinner table doesn't have. A dark, pungent, intensely flavorful sauce. When he returns home to Worcestershire, he can't get it out of his head. So he does what a wealthy Englishman in 1830s Worcester would do. He goes to the chemists. He asks Lea and Perrins to recreate it exactly. They try. They gather ingredients most English kitchens had never combined before: vinegar, anchovies, tamarind, garlic, spice, and they mix a batch. It's awful. Sharp, fishy, bitter, nothing like what was promised. The two chemists are so unhappy with it that instead of throwing it away, they simply put the barrel in the cellar and move on with their business. Weeks become months. Months become, according to the legend, nearly 2 years. And then, clearing out the cellar, someone finds it again. Rather than pour it out, they taste it one more time. Everything has changed. The harshness is gone. What's left is deep, savory, complex. Unlike anything else on an English table. Whatever really happened in that cellar, this part is solid ground. By 1837, Lea and Perrins were selling a bottled sauce under a new name, Worcestershire sauce, from their shop on Broad Street. And in 1840, something appears that we can actually hold on to, an advertisement in the Manchester Guardian. It describes the sauce as made from, and this phrasing matters, the favorite recipe of a nobleman of acknowledged gout. This is, right now, the earliest strong documentary evidence we have for the entire story you just watched. Read it closely, and notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't name Lord Sandys. It doesn't mention India. It doesn't mention a barrel, a disgusting first batch, or 2 forgotten years. It mentions a nobleman. That's it. Historians who've gone looking for proof of the rest of the story have run into a wall. Was there a nobleman connected to the recipe? Almost certainly, the 1840 advertisement backs that up. But was he Lord Sandys specifically? No independent record confirms that. It's what historians call company tradition. A claim the business itself has told for generations, without a document to back it up. Did the recipe really come from India? It's plausible. The ingredients strongly suggest South Asian influence. Tamarind, chili, a fermented, funky depth. British colonial officials really did bring home a taste for South Asian flavors. But no surviving document ties this specific sauce to one specific Indian recipe. And the most beloved detail of all, the disgusting first batch, the forgotten barrel, the exact 2 years, has, as far as historians have found, no independent account from the time it supposedly happened. No diary entry. No contemporary letter. No newspaper mention. It doesn't mean it's false. It means we can't prove it's true. Everything else, the drama, the disgust, the two forgotten years, was added later. Maybe by customers repeating a good story. Maybe, more likely, by the company itself, because a mysterious accident makes for much better advertising than we developed a sauce recipe over time. Here's what we can say with real confidence, because this part isn't legend. It's chemistry. Anchovies, salted and left to age, slowly break down. Enzymes take their proteins apart into smaller building blocks. Amino acids, peptides, the same molecules responsible for deep savory flavor. Scientists call this umami, and it's the backbone of the sauce's punch. Tamarind adds a dark, fruity sourness found nowhere in traditional English cooking. Vinegar preserves and sharpens. Sugar and molasses round the sharp edges. Spices bind it all together. Lea and Perrins didn't stumble onto a miracle. They combined known techniques with an unusual set of ingredients, and they got the balance right. But chemistry alone doesn't explain a global condiment. What explains that is what happened next. By 1848, barely a decade after that first bottle, Lea and Perrins were shipping to Gibraltar, Malta, Singapore, India, Australia, Africa, Chile, Peru, Canada, Jamaica, and the United States. Sales figures, if the surviving records are accurate, jumped from just over 600 bottles in 1842 to 30,000 a year by 1855. And in 1876, something happened that should have hurt the brand and somehow didn't. Lea and Perrins lost the exclusive legal right to the word Worcestershire itself. The name became generic. Anyone could put Worcestershire sauce on a label. You'd think that would be a disaster. Instead, it turned one brand's product into an entire category of sauce. From there, the sauce simply worked its way into everything.
Bloody mice.
Steak marinades, shepherd's pie, Caesar dressing, soups and gravies on tables that had never seen tamarind or fermented anchovy before Worcester chemistry found its way there. Today's versions aren't even identical. British and American recipes use different vinegar and sweeteners. There are vegetarian versions without anchovies at all, and gluten-free versions swapping out malt vinegar. Worcestershire sauce isn't one fixed recipe anymore. It's a whole category, all descended from that Worcester Chemists shop. The company, now part of the global Kraft Heinz portfolio, says its sauce reaches more than 130 countries. So, did two chemists really leave a barrel forgotten in a cellar for 2 years, only to discover greatness by accident? Maybe. Nobody can prove it didn't happen that way. But nobody can prove it did either. What we can prove is smaller and in some ways more interesting. A nobleman whose name we don't know, an advertisement that mentions him without the details we've all been told, and two chemists who built something remarkable, not by accident but through fermentation, trade, branding, and more than a little legal luck. Every bottle in your kitchen carries two histories. There's the one that actually happened, recorded, dated, provable. And there's the one we chose to remember, because it's simply more fun to tell. Worcestershire sauce's real story, chemistry, colonial trade, and a fight over a single word, is arguably the better one. We just had to stop repeating the legend long enough to find it. Every meal carries more than flavor. It carries the footsteps of countless generations, shaped by curiosity, necessity, and the people who came before us. The story we've uncovered today is just one chapter in a much larger history still waiting to be explored. If this journey changed the way you see what's on your plate, consider leaving a like so more curious minds can discover it. Share this story with someone who loves food, history, or both, and let us know in the comments what surprised you most, or which culinary mystery you'd like us to uncover next. And if you'd like to keep exploring the remarkable stories hidden inside everyday meals, we'd be honored to have you join us by subscribing to Culinary Lore, because every ingredient has a past, every recipe has a journey, and every meal has a story. Until our next journey through the world's table, keep wondering what's behind the next bite.